What's up, guys? It's Ryan here again, and we're gonna do another poem. You guys seem to love it, and I love Amanda Gorman. And I love breaking down stuff. So here we go. I saw the commercial only once, so I haven't necessarily had the chance to really get into it, do it properly, but I'm gonna try because she does an amazing job. So here we go. Today, we honor our three captains for their actions and impact in a time of uncertainty and need. They've taken the lead, exceeding all expectations and limitations, uplifting their communities and nation as leaders, healers, and educators. James has felt the wounds of warfare, but this warrior still shares his home with at-risk kids. During COVID, he's even lent a hand, live streaming football for family and fans. Tremaine is an educator who works nonstop, providing his community with hotspots, laptops, and tech workshops so his students have all the tools they need to succeed in life and in school. Susie is the ICU nurse manager at a Tampa hospital. Her chronicles prove that even in tragedy, hope is possible. She lost her grandmothers to the pandemic and fights to save other lives in the ICU battle zone, defining the front line, heroes risking their lives for our own. Let us walk with these warriors, charge on with these champions, and carry forth the call of our captains. We celebrate them by acting with courage and compassion, by doing what is right and just. For while we honor them today, it is they who every day honor us. Mm. She's so good. She's so good. Like it's easy. Like it's the first time I've read it. Like literally read it. It's the first time I performed it. I haven't practiced this at all. And it just flows. It's so easy to feel and wrap your head around. And she does such a good job of like dropping little rhymes and little alliterations and all these really wonderful things that catch, that really not only catch your attention, but really hit you emotionally, right? So let's just start from the beginning, right? She talks about three particular captains. So we know we're going to get something on three different people, three different stories. And I think that's wonderful. It sets up a really nice expectation, and she peppers in all these nice little rhymes in there, right? Right? Captains for their actions and impact in a time of uncertainty and need. Ah. And then she hooks it later and says they have taken the lead, exceeding all expectations and limitations. So look what she did, right? Right. So she established a rhyme with need, and then instead of rhyming it with the end of the next line, she actually rhymes it in the middle of the next line. So it's still you still feel the connection. You still hear the rhyme, you still experience the rhyme, but it doesn't hit with the same impact. So what she's doing, she's trying to fold over your experience and get it to kind of roll into the next line. So it feels continuous, but at the same time, you experience the stop and the pleasure of that particular rhyme. And then, of course, exceeding expectations and limitations, right? Lead and limitations are an alliteration. Exceeding and expectations are alliteration. But then she switches the rhymes up, right? Lead and exceed rhyme, but it's exceeding, right? Expectation and limitations rhyme, but they're also part of that alliteration. So she's weaving alliterations and rhymes in together. And then exceeding and uplifting rhyme as well as communities, right? So she's when she puts these rhymes there, your normal like expectation when you're reading poetry is to be like line A or word the end of line A rhymes with the end of line B, and the end of line C rhymes with the end of line D. So she's actually playing with your expectations, right? And she's inserting rhymes into places that you wouldn't think. It's kind of like hitting the offbeat when you're listening to music, right? So if it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? If you want to hit the offbeat, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So then you hit the and instead of the number. And what that does is it changes your expectation, but it plays with your emotions in a good way, right? It keeps things from being repetitive. It changes it up, but then it's also it's very stimulating. It's very titillating. You're like, oh, here's something different. Oh, this is neat. You know, you can feel yourself starting to get taken on a journey in a different direction. And she's doing that all within the first paragraph. And it's just wonderful. It's wonderful. First stanza, excuse me. So let's analyze the James stanza here. He's felt the wounds of warfare, but this warrior still shares his home with at-risk kids. Like, very nice. See, and so she does it again. So if you weren't really sure if it was happening in the first one, you can clearly see it's happening in the second one, where she starts an alliteration, she rhymes in the middle of that alliteration, and then ends with another alliteration that happens to rhyme back to the previous line, right? So it's, you know, wounds of warfare, there's the alliteration, right? You know, wounds and warfare, W and W, you know, but this warrior, there you go. See, it continues, still shares his home with at-risk kids, right? Warfare and share rhyme. You see that? And so that's what she's doing. She's bringing it back. She keeps bringing it back. She keeps reminding you this is important. And that's the thing that alliterations and rhymes do, is they draw importance to particular lines and particular words. And so what she's really emphasizing here is that even though he was a warrior, even though he's a soldier, he hasn't closed his heart off. He's not, you know, the world hasn't beaten him down. He shares his home with at-risk kids. Even during COVID, he's even lent a hand live streaming football for family and fans. So obviously this was before the Super Bowl. And this is a really nice way to sort of tie it into football and tie it into the idea of football creating families and bringing people together and stuff. And so it also has a lot of allusions to, you know, the sort of the war mentality of football, and like how much, you know, each team is fighting for, you know, their particular fan base and their families and, you know, their cause. And so it's a really nice parallel there, you know. And there's always been a long tie-in of soldiers and football and families, you know. So this is a really, really great example of that. Next stanza, here we go. Tremaine is an educator who works nonstop, providing his community with hotspots, laptops, and tech workshops. Bam, 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 bam. So what she's done here is now she's changed it up, right? So we had a very similar idea of like alliteration, rhyme, alliteration, you know. And so what she's doing here is now she's going alliteration, right? And then rhyme, bam, 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 right away. You know, hotspots, laptops, tech workshops. So his students have all the tools they need to succeed in life and school, you know. And then she kind of brings it back here, right? So tool and school rhyme, and then need and succeed rhyme, right? So you've got sort of a longer rhyme, and then it, you know, sandwiched around an internal rhyme, which is really, really nice, right? But then she still throws in a nice alliteration here too, right? So students, succeed, school, you know. And what's really great here is she's talking about like teachers and how those also build communities. So like James, as a soldier, you know, who has live stream football, is bringing people together like that, right? He's creating families that way. And then this way, Tremaine is also creating families, but the families he's creating are communities now, right? And not just like, you know, any community. It's hotspots, laptops, tech workshops, right? Giving his students the tools they need to succeed in school and life and in school. And so the idea is that he's preparing for the future, right? So James's family is a family of the present, right? It's happening right now. It's during COVID, right? He's working with at-risk kids. He's a soldier. He's a football fan. Like, these are all very present oriented things. Whereas Tremaine's stanza is very much about the present leading into the future, about doing more, right? It's about technology. It's about giving skills to kids. It's about building communities. And so that's what's really nice about Tremaine's stanza, is it's very future focused. It's looking forward. It's really wonderful. So let's move on. Susie is the ICU nurse manager at a Tampa hospital. Her chronicles prove that even in tragedy, hope is possible. Rhyme, rhyme, rhyme. Notice she's using longer rhymes now. She's extending what's going on. You know, so before we're used to nice quick rhymes and a lot of internal rhymes. And so this is, it's drawing attention to the rhymes and to the words that rhyme, but in a different way, in a way that we're not used to anymore. Like we've gotten used to the very quick internal rhymes, the very quick alliterations. But notice here, all we're rhyming is hospital, chronicles, and possible, right? And when she does that, she's really drawing attention to those words in particular, right? ICU nurse manager at a Tampa hospital, right? Boom. That is a regular sentence, right? Her chronicles prove that even in tragedy, hope is possible. See that? See that? Her work shows that even at our worst, even when things are going terrible, there is still hope. So if she threw in a lot of extra alliterations and a lot of extra rhymes, that message wouldn't actually come out as clear. It'd be very memorable, it'd be very emotional. But in this case, she actually wants to draw more attention to the actions of what's going on. She wants to draw more attention to what Susie has done in particular, as opposed to some of the other stanzas where she was looking to make them more memorable because they're more memorable emotionally and more memorable because of her poetic technique. Whereas this one, she really wants these particular words and stanzas to stand out in a more prose-like fashion, in a more essay-like fashion, right? She lost her grandmothers to the pandemic and fights to save other lives in the ICU battle zone, defining the frontline heroes, risking their lives for our own, right? Again, the rhymes are a little sparse relative to the other paragraphs, but notice what she's doing here. ICU, battle zone, right? Frontline heroes, risking their lives for our own. So whereas Tremaine was very future thinking and James was sort of very present thinking, you know, Susie is very much, it's sort of like the bridge between them, right? It's very much focused on the present because she has to fight COVID and fight in the ICU, but it's also about the future because when you save a life, that life has a future now. And so what's really nice about putting Susie's story here, and like I said, reducing the number of rhymes, reducing the alliterations here, is she's turning it into something a little more prose-like and is drawing attention to the bridge that Susie creates as the ICU nurse manager. It's really, really well done. Excellent technique. This is something that actually happens a lot in essays where like you present, you know, one particular argument, you present another particular argument, and then your third paragraph brings everything together. She's doing the same thing here. This third stanza brings everything together, you know, and then she ends with what, you know, you could say is like her thesis statement or her final thought. Let us walk with these warriors, charge on with these champions, and carry forth the call of our captains. We celebrate them by acting with courage and compassion, by doing what is right and just. So boom, notice what she's doing now, right? She's brought back all the rhymes, all the alliterations, all the internal rhymes, the slant rhymes, the you know, the cross alliterations, which are alliterations, you know, that happen between lines, not just between words that are together, right? So she's using a ton of W's and a ton of C's and different C's, charge, champion, but then carry, call, and captain, and then C, celebrate, C, courage, compassion, right? By doing what's right and just. So this really like creates a groundswell of feelings and emotions and poetic hits, you know, just and that's why it's so great. Like this is the way you want to end the poem because it makes it incredibly memorable. And it ties everything together. Like the whole idea is James, Tremaine, and Susie are about the future, are about the present, about the future, and all the connecting tissue. And guess what? That connecting tissue is us because we are walking with these warriors. We are charging on like champions. We are carrying forth the call of our captains. So they are our leaders. They are the ones taking us through the present into the future, but we are going with them. And the way that we can join them in this, in their struggle and their journey, is to act with courage and compassion by doing what is right and just, by following their wonderful example. And by extension, Amanda Gorman's wonderful example, to show this is the path. This is the path of goodness. This is the way. This is how we can all move forward and come together. This is how we get that unity that Joe Biden talks so much about. Courage and compassion, righteousness and justice. Wonderful poem. My God. It's only like a minute and a half. Like, I don't even think I took that long to do it, but there's just so much good stuff in here. And she's an incredibly, wonderfully talented poet, and just amazing. Just absolutely freaking amazing. I am blown away, and what's really great about these poems too is they're so accessible. She does such a good job of of word placement. And when you read it, you can read this like it's an essay. Like, it looks very prosaic, I don't even know if that's a word, but it looks very prose-like. It reads like an essay, but at the same time, there's just all this really, really nice poetic technique that just, you can't help but hear and you can't help but feel. And so even if you don't know what she's doing, you absolutely feel it. It's like seeing a really good dance performance. You're like, I don't know how the hell they're able to do those moves, but I know that those moves are making me feel warm and wonderful and inspired. And that's really the best part about this is such an inspiring poem and such an inspiring feeling that she has given to us. And I'm just so impressed. And she is a wonder and a gem and a national treasure. And I'm looking forward to reading more of her work, man. So hope you guys like this video, and thanks for joining me.